Redditors who have lived at a party house where people would hang out at on Saturday nights. Did you enjoy living there? What was your experience like? It was okay when it was someone else's place because that was their decision to be okay with the activities. I was always respectful and viewed kind of like the den mother of the Lost Boys. When I got an apartment with my husband, boyfriend at the time, and 2 other guys, it was a crap situation. I didn't really ever care for hallucinogens but always seemed to be the babysitter for their trips. I'd eventually tap out because who can compete with distorted time? But after I went to sleep all heck seemed to break loose. So I'd wake up to random crap that made 0 sense. My favorite, 6 feet tall elephant made from electrical tape. The tail consisted of leftover tape roll hanging freely. How to video for self-hypnosis playing on repeat. All of the guys are passed out. Quotes from an Aqua Teen Hunger Force episode featuring hand banana written and dry erase marker inside the fridge. One night a new guy said some weird crap. It feels like dongs are coming out of me. The next morning he was covered in Play-Doh constructed dongs. This event slowed crap down. I was the only one who had to work the next day. I went to sleep, not easy for me, and everyone was loud. There were thumps, giggling, and doors opening closing all night. I got up to find a powwow in one room. They had finally quieted down now that I was awake. I told them they were all buttholes and the regulars understood and were quiet. This one and only girl was there for the first time ever, smirked and laughed. I pointed at her, especially you B. Wipe the fricking smile or hit the bricks. I'm not a party pooper but dang the bills had to be paid. Can't party every night. I didn't care if they partied but keep it the frick down. I don't get all alpha female unless I'm in a cranky mood. When people started getting kicked the frick out for unpaid rent, the parties shifted really quick to strictly weekends. I've always been cool with having the chill safe place but I had to be the voice of reason. No, I'm sorry your 15-year-old cousin can't stay here when he's supposed to be in school. We're 20 plus, you guys have stashes, and his mom knows where to send the police to pick him up for truancy. TL. DR? Den mother to the Lost Boys had to assert some dominance so we could all continue to have a roof to party under. In college my friends and I lived at a place where everyone would come hang out. I absolutely loved always having people hanging out and coming to visit, but after parties the mess was usually a pain to clean up. Everyone was usually pretty good for helping clean up in the morning though if they were still there. My party house experience was 3 days a week, if not more. I enjoyed it greatly. People always coming and going. Many years later, people still talk about the great times we had. Fortunately, I have to say I had great roommates with a lot in common. I always look back at those years and have a great big smile. Lived in one for about 2 years with a buddy named Neil and it was a blast. We had a party nearly every night, and the nights we didn't throw one someone else would. A few times we weren't even there and a friend would let themselves in if it was unlocked or break in through an unlocked window if it was, then throw a raging party. For one of them we showed up in the morning and found the remnants including a strange guy sleeping in Neil's bed who, when woken up with "What are you doing sleeping in my bed?" told Neil killer party. Man and stumbled out of the house. We had the cops called constantly for noise but never got super out of hand so the cops pretty much left us alone. There were some funny call outs though. They showed up at 3 in the afternoon one day when Neil and I weren't working so we were watching Die Hard with the sound cranked. The neighbor 2 doors down called and said their front window was rattling. The cops stuck their head in the open front window to get our attention when we didn't hear the door. We let them in and they checked out the sound system, said it was awesome and to turn it down a bit. As they were leaving they said bye and we just laughed and said see you later. The other great one was when they stopped in at about 8 PM and asked us to get the dog off the roof. Apparently someone had let Neil's dog, a big Rottweiler cross, onto the roof through my bedroom window and it was barking at people walking by. I'm super glad I lived there. So many stories. Getting drunk and playing Killer Instinct until Neil, tired of losing, took the cartridge out and fired it across the room shouting nobody gets to play IT anymore. Losing a 3-foot python that managed to lift the weights off the top of its tank. Then having a party that night anyway and people hearing about the loose snake. Passing out on the coffee table or upstairs, like a snake can't get up there. We celebrated Neil and another buddy quitting their jobs by buying a keg, finishing it in an hour and a half. then returning it and getting a couple flats of beer and assorted other alcohol. Went downstairs in the morning to discover a living room that looked like a sea of aluminum cans. We actually moved from that party house to one in Edmonton, living next to another party house on one side and a place that sold some kind of drugs out of it on the other. Great neighbors, neither one was interested in calling the cops. Hated it. I'm not a drinker and they routinely fricked up our bathroom, stole my meds, and ruined my things. I avoided roommates for years that I wasn't dating. Will never do again. I hated it. It was always loud. Things would always go missing, and I refused to use our bathrooms without footwear. The basement was constantly a sticky mess, and I spent way too much time money drinking. It was a blast. I had plenty of sex, have so many stories, and no one ever got hurt or in any real trouble. That being said, I think it took away my urge to drink. It wasn't just Saturday night, it was every night. Man, for a year, it was freaking awesome. As an introvert, the times that were had are hard to come by, but if I had been there for 2 years, I probably would have gone batty. If you want to make memories and do crazy crap you'd have never done alone, then go for it. If you really value and require alone time at this point in your journey, head elsewhere. I lived in a place with 10 Australians. Sometimes people were doing lines of coke off the dining table on a Wednesday morning. Other times my garden would be full of people dressed as Santa. Occasionally there would be a soul train in the kitchen. It was fun because I knew it was temporary. I was trying to sleep in the bottom bunk of a bunk while a friend of mine tried hooking up with a female friend of mine in the top bunk. I was trying to just power through and fall back asleep because I had to get up at like 5 AM the next morning. Things were going well for my buddy till he came out with Stacy. You have like the nicest butt ever. I couldn't resist and had to say, dang Tad, you are a smooth talker. She started cracking up. Pretty much dong blocked the heck out of that dude before I even knew what dong blocking was. It was fun, but I think my roommates wanted it to be just a regular house, not a party one. I was the only one wanting to have fun all the time, which kind of sucked. Years later I found out I'm an alcoholic. It was the dorms where I lived, but we always threw parties in my living area and I loved it. I miss those times almost every day. My friend and I, girls 22 and 24, were in the cocktail waitressing bartending phase that occurred before we decided that A, college is not actually jailing our free spirits by requiring us to show up to class. We embraced the late night lifestyle with abandon. Close friends, work friends, and random new friends could be found most days crashed out on our ratty pull-out sofas. I finally installed black AstroTurf over the tile in our living room because no amount of Swiffering could keep up with the volume of spilt drinks. At that point we no longer called it a home. It was officially the frat house. Perhaps the time could have been better spent, but we had a lot of freaking fun for the entire year lease, and we even got our deposit back. It was fun while it lasted, but got old quickly. Ours certainly wasn't limited to Saturdays. A few memories. Learning how to enjoy beer. I didn't like beer before living there. Thanks, Killian's Irish Red. Waking up to a house full of strangers every morning. Roommate getting blackout drunk every single night. I learned to gauge his facial expressions and would toss the full-size garbage bin in front of him so he wouldn't hurl on the couch floor himself a guest a roomie again. Blackout roomie pee in the potted plant in the corner, in front of everyone LOLSMH. Blackout roomie leaving while blacked out, and us wondering if we would see him the next morning. We eventually started hiding his keys when he'd start drinking. My boyfriend at the time getting too drunk and hurling from the side of the bed onto the carpet. And my favorite skirt. I repeatedly attempted, and failed, at cleaning it up and eventually just dumped a bottle of Febreze on the spot. I will forever despise Febreze because all it has smelled like since then is vomit. The time when everyone in the house forgot to shut the front door and we all woke up to find out our living room raided and a bunch of stuff missing. The hardest part was our PlayStation and games had been stolen. The mousetrap in the kitchen that was forgotten, hidden behind the microwave. I cleaned that kitchen with an entire bottle of bleach and could not figure out what smelled. We finally found it a couple of weeks later. Death reeks almost as bad as Febreze plus vomit. Getting to know my roomie's girlfriend, she was much more laid back and nice than I had expected. May she RIP. Some butthole rear-ending my BF's Escort, which rolled into my 20-year-old Volvo wagon, which rolled into my roomie's Corolla. The crap cars were both totaled, but mine had a scratch on the bumper. I miss that car LOL. Rent for a 4-bedroom house being less than $100 a month. Good times. Currently living in one. I love it. As a whole, it's just a nice distraction from all the other stress we've all got going on. Just one piece of advice. Don't get a couch guy. I moved in after the 2 other guys and they had a couch guy. They grew up with him. Apparently he had been a pretty good guy, but he was constantly stealing our food, running our 2 TB internet limit out, and stealing any and all change right from our rooms. They would just turn a blind eye. Oh, he's going through hard times, but then he stole a little over $500 of things from me and I kicked him out. It was nice to have someone to talk to when the other roomies were out at work and you had the day off, but overall it was a bad move to let him get that rooted. He stayed over 7 days a week, slept until like 4 PM unless otherwise woken up, never took you up on your offer of food, but as soon as everyone went to bed he'd cook huge feasts for himself. TLDR, if you like people and social drinking, party houses are awesome. Just don't get a couch guy. I lived in a party house in London with a musician friend for 4 years, 25-29. He used to be famous before my time and was a bit of a name dropper and loved to invite famous friends round to party all night. There was a full studio in the living room with a keyboard and drum kit, and my main function was to make the house seem safe for all the women he banged. It was fine while I was up all night partying also, but as soon as I started to take my job a bit more seriously it was heck. My room was right on a very busy main road and it had bed bugs. He used to sing Crazy by Gnarls Barkley full blast at all hours, which drove me exactly that. There was also no privacy as my door lock was broken, so drunk guests would accidentally come in my room in the middle of the night, which was often terrifying. The final straw was when he installed a ping pong table outside my bedroom. I thought frick this and moved out. My house growing up was a bit of a party house. My mum would go to her boyfriends at weekends. My older brother's friends would come around most weekends and hang out. They were not big drinkers, if at all, but they smoked a heck of a lot of weed. My mum didn't mind. She figured it was a safe space for a bunch of adolescents and young adults, and better than having us roam the streets or go to parties and such. They always helped tidy up and were lovely and respectful. As a kid just starting high school, I loved having my big brother's friends hanging out. I would often sit up with them, although I always refused their offers for a smoke. We would watch Rage, play guitars and joke about or play computer games. They all treated me like their little brother, and I learned a lot about music, art and philosophy and crazy films and ideas. Good times until my brothers moved out and I could properly experiment with being a moody, grumpy teenager. Obligatory, not my house comment. I had a friend my senior year of high school to even to this day his house is a party house. I don't go there anymore because of the numerous fights that have happened and don't want to be associated with. In high school his house was the same, like 10 of us hanging out on a Friday night, getting drunk and acting like fools, and waking up on Saturday morning to walk to Wendy's and cure our teenage hangovers. Once we got to college they partied turned into full-blown 100 people in the house and backyard parties. I'm talking entire cabinets full of liquor, 5, 10, 30 racks, bags of McDonald's everywhere with pizza scattered here, people hooking up in the upstairs designated purple room. In the summer his pool would have tons of people playing chicken or trying to drown each other for fun. I saw and witnessed some wild crap there. My favorite memory being New Year's of 2012 when I brought about 50 Roman candles over, and at midnight a Roman candle war broke out in the backyard. I spent a semester living in a party house. It was fun at first, but it got tiresome. There were always people in the house. It was really difficult to concentrate on school and I got my worst marks ever that semester. As a result of all the drinking, pot smoking and snacking, I gained about 20 pounds. Then after one particular party, despite retiring early to try and get sleep, I slept through my alarm and missed my sweet job with the university that morning. I worked as an invigilator. It paid very well. I lost that sweet gig. Overall, not worth it. IDK, what qualifies as a party house, but my roommate and I shared a 2-bedroom in Cali which had a big living room and were the only ones of our large friend group. Well, her large friend group that didn't live with our parents during college. They'd be gone early night to a rave or club and then come back to continue partying and wear off their drugs. So pretty much every night there was someone new sleeping on the floor of my living room. I just kept to myself and learned to sleep through constant EDM. My only rule was that the bathroom be clean. Most of them were Asian kids that were somewhat respectful, so we never had any huge messes, and if there were, the other kids cleaned it before I found out. I think I was the scary one. Funny, there were always people around but I never felt so lonely. I fell into a depression and locked myself in my room for most of the last few months before graduation. I hated it. I used to go over to some of my friends' house all the time for parties. Then one day their roommate moved out and they asked if I'd move in. I thought it was going to be so fun. Turns out it's terrible. It's always dirty, loud. You have to start worrying about underage drinkers. You turn into the dad telling everyone what to do. And any productive activity you used to do gets replaced with drinking games. There is constant drama. You're forced to be around people you don't like. Things get broken. Cops show up sometimes. Neighbors hate you. You have no privacy. Was so happy when I finally moved out and moved in with my girlfriend, who is now my wife. We never have anyone over. Coming home and finding everyone high on Molly or coke or whatever was cheap at the time. Waking up and smoking a cigarette. Taking a drink of water only to find out it's pure vodka. Watching your friends drink moonshine at 8 AM to stave off the shakes. Trading food for drugs. Rolling cigarette from Halfies. Homeless people sleeping on the couch 2 random people flicked on earlier. Lots of other depraved crap I'm glad to be far from. Lived in the designated fraternity party house. It was a lot more fun to be the guy destroying the house as an underclassman compared to being the guy cleaning it as a senior. It'd mirror what most everyone else is saying. The place was always filthy, constantly smelled of stale beer, and everything was at risk of being broken. The thing that I think no one's talking about is how it changes getting laid when you own the space. Normally you think being the guys who run the party means it's easier to meet someone, but the reality is you have to babysit the party until it ends, and all you're left with at the end of the night are the drunk rejects. As much as you want to ditch out with the cute girl that is a visible tramp stamp, you have to wait several more hours to make sure everyone has gone home and not stolen your TV before you can leave. My dad always told me that at closing time Miss America isn't coming in and you have to work with what you've got. Boy, was he right. Heck yeah, sure, I developed a drinking problem. Failed out of school. Started hanging out with some of the wrong people. Got sick a lot. Was always tired. Had a constant hangover. And the guys I dated were not great. But I had a heck of a lot of fun. The trick is to know when to pack it in and find a better situation. It's not sustainable. It's like a vacation. 6 months to a year tops. More than that and you might get stuck. Also, get used to being dirty house. Getting stuff stolen. Broken stuff. Your food is community property, as is booze. And if you aren't around people, use your stuff room. Anything of value, leave it at your parents' house. The acid was fun, but the visitors and most of the occupants were stupid. It was the next best thing to a waste of time. It was obnoxious most of the time, but a lot of fun crap happened. Met a lot of different people, but the mess was exhausting, and party houses come with leeches who think they can just come in and out as they please. It was terrible. We had about 11 people crashing 24/7 on top of the 6 who lived there. Parties got out of control. It was filthy. I saw stabbings, 50+ person brawls, had guns pulled on me, drugs, and a few overdoses. It was all because of one roommate who had a breakdown and a complete 180 on his personality. Me and 2 others moved out after a few months and we still got stuck paying for 50% of the damages. Buried reply. Will post anyway. I rented the downstairs of a party house of a homeowner in his 30s. I needed a place to stay in between places. It was okay on Friday or Saturday nights, as I was on a bowling team on Friday nights after work and was usually out with friends on Saturday nights. What sucked was I didn't drink at all during the week and any Tuesday or Wednesday night. We all had typical 8-5 M.F. office jobs. I wouldn't be able to sleep because of the parties that lasted until 3 am. I lived there about 3 months and cleaned up more puke, beer cans, and food scattered everywhere than I ever care to admit. 0/10. Do not recommend. Typical not ex, but story here. My brother was at one of these for about a year. He decided to live with a best friend of his, right out of high school, with cheap rent, even for an already okay area in terms of rent. Typical rent being like $700 or $800 around there. He got a full room in a house with utilities for $300 due to a friend of a friend connection. He had his best friend and one other guy that they were friends with. Parties every weekend. Not like huge 100 people parties, but definitely stuff was happening each weekend. Loud noise, booze everywhere, partying, all that. He told me that he freaking hated it. My brother isn't what I would call shy, but he does keep to himself a lot and needs his personal space. Just like me. Woo. He also likes to sleep a lot, and his best friend, in addition to playing League loudly till 4 am on weekdays, keeping him up, would throw parties where he would have to come back home to sleep, cause he couldn't get anything done. Ever since he moved into a new house about a year later with some new friends, he's loved it. They have occasional get-togethers, but not like parties or anything that extreme. The old best friend did a lot of dumb stuff, and now I don't know where he is. Last I heard, he rammed someone at a stoplight cause he was driving while texting, had to pay $500 in damages, got a call from the car owner, who was Chinese by the way, in which he responded "frick you gay chink" and hung up. He had to go to court for $2,000 then, and I don't know what happened then, but my brother wasn't hopeful for him, considering how he was always asking for money. I guess where my roommate and I currently live could have been considered a party house for about a year or two. We had friends over every Saturday night, and since we live next door to a pub we would pre-game at our place, walk out the front door, turn left, walk about 20 yards, walk into the pub and drink some more. Come back to our place after 2 or 3 hours and drink more, smoke, eat, play video games until 3 or 4 in the morning before we all passed out, and then by 12 PM Sunday everyone would be gone. It wasn't even bad. I enjoyed it a ton, in fact, since it was the only time I had to chill with friends due to all our work school schedules being crazy throughout week. We stopped doing it as much earlier this year though. In the past few months we've only had a few people come over on Saturday to drink and eat some food, but since my roommate and I quit smoking weed it has chilled out quite a bit. I think for a lot of us it was more a time to chill and have fun and not care about adult life responsibilities and just let loose for a night once a week. I went to college at a well-known party school near Appalachia. To address the first question, yes, I freaking loved it. I was the social chair for our rugby team, which meant I controlled between $2,500 to $3,000 a semester for parties. I loved planning our parties and socials to hear everyone talk about how much fun they had that after the weekend at practice. As far as the experience went, I'll list out pros versus cons. Pros: always having friends over, stopping by to hang out for a little or just chill. The parties are always at your place. No waiting in lines for beer. Do whatever the frick you want because it's your house and pretty much your party. Girls, the line "hey wanna go smoke do shots in my room" is effective. You get to pick the theme vibe of the party. Feeling a sense of accomplishment after throwing a good party. Finding beer, drugs, money while cleaning up the next day. Meet and talk to a lot of new people. Cons: the parties are always at your place. Both party houses I lived in were plus 100-year shitholes. It's your crap that gets broken, stolen. House was pretty much always dirty. Your security deposit takes a hit after every big party. You can never have a nice couch to sit on and always have to wear shoes in the house. If someone pisses, shoots, pukes all over the bathroom, it's your problem. Distracts you from your schoolwork. Wouldn't trade any second of it though. Was too much fun. Lived in Skull House one summer in Boston with my college roommate in the early 2000s since the frat rented the rooms out to girls for almost nothing. The beer was plentiful and free. The guys were mostly gentlemen and good people to hang out with, and I got taken out and paddled in the middle of the street for my 20th birthday. Good times. but I would never want to live like that again. The kitchen and bathroom situations were interesting. One memory that makes me laugh is coming back from work only to be given a job of moving the trash bins around the table since there was a game of Kings or something like that already in progress and they needed someone on puke duty. I had a bouncer throw me out of my own room. I explained it's my room and he said he was sorry and I thanked him for protecting my room. I moved into a house my sophomore year of college with a couple acquaintances who assured me at the time I moved in that they didn't like to party. Flash forward 1 month when school starts and they're throwing rages every single weekend and never telling me about it. I would walk in the back door and be greeted by groups of very inebriated college kids asking if I'm there to party. I start staying at my boyfriend's house a lot during that time because I literally couldn't sleep at night and they would have parties on school nights. I eventually find out my roommate is letting drunk people into my room to use my bathroom, and I only find this out because as I'm laying in bed one night during a party, someone tries to open my door and when it's locked they start banging on my door. Needless to say I live in a 1-bedroom apartment now and I enjoy the quiet nights. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.